you very much. Welcome to Boulder County Tonight. I'm your host. My name is Andy Epler. That's Jackson Cloud on that guitar over there. He's a hero. Today, again, it's just a few of us in the studio. We're trying to keep it light, you know. If you're watching this when they film it in Longmont Public Media and they show it late at night, go to bed, Grandma. You left the TV on. It's time to go to bed. Thanks for watching the show, but quit watching now. What else is going on? Having my cast removed. Remember, like, this weird, long story that's been going on this show where it's like, the day before I started this series, I stabbed myself in the hand with a knife while I was trying to shoot an erotic film in the desert. Remember that? That's still happening in my life. It's been weeks and weeks, but it's still happening. I had nerve surgery, and I'm getting this removed on Wednesday, so I'll be able to, like, flip people off again, I guess, or whatever I'm waiting for. I gotta tell you, having two hands is the shit. And you overlook that kind of stuff in your life, but I'm never going to overlook it again. Little bit of news that I found out. Oh, Jackson, you'll appreciate this. This is guitar news.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson's a guitar player. Fender Guitars released some data over the last few years, and it turns out, over the last several years, 1/3 of all guitars sold went to Christian worship leaders. Can you believe that? I think that's a really amazing statistic. In a related story, I think it's possible that the trees have been starting these forest fires. I think they got a hold of this study and they were like, I would rather be burned alive than turn into a guitar and have a 1/3 chance of having to play Christian music. That's just a thought. I don't know if you've ever been at a church and heard the worship leader. I used to be a professional worship leader, so it's I have a license for the joke, I'm afraid. What else is going on in the world? I saw a movie. I don't usually see movies, but I haven't been able to, like, play gigs or, like, whatever, do much with this fucked up hand. So I had a lover come over to my house and we were watching a movie, eat popcorn, right? And we watched this movie called Tenet. It's a Christopher Nolan film. We're going to review it for you now because someone suggested I try and review a movie in one of my monologues. This is me trying that. Very quickly, there's a movie called Tenet. It's a time travel-based movie, and, like, a bad one. And, like, part of what the thing is like the characters are moving forward and then backwards through time, right? So they're like, shoot guns, big explosions, whatever, but then they move backwards through time, and, like, the bullets are coming back into their guns, and the water comes, like, back into the bottle and shit like that. It's a really cool, idea for a movie. They kind of explore it pretty thoroughly, that kind of time travel, water going back into the bottle, explosions de-exploding or whatever. It's sort of interesting, but one thing that they don't explore in the movie, nobody seems to have to go to the bathroom in the whole movie. Because I don't know what that looks like when, like, if the bullet goes back into the gun. I can tell you that going to the bathroom is going to be a weird experience for these folks. And I don't know if it's just, like, spycraft to not have to go to the bathroom during a mission or whatever. But, like, I guess, like, we don't see... I think even James Bond uses a bathroom here and there in the movies or whatever, but not in Tenet. And I think there's probably a good reason why. Let's use your imaginations for that. I'm trying to keep it light today. I know that sometimes my monologues can get, let's call it dark. Because, the world is sort of a fucked up place, But I'm trying to, like, bring you happy stories like we just heard. But in other news... I want to start a new thing on this show, a little segment that I'm going to call Good News, Bad News, Bad News, Bad News, okay? Here's the good news. Remember how, like, on this show, one of our main focuses has been the wealth inequality problem, skyrocketing prices of homes and rent in Boulder County. Remember how, like, that's one of our main focuses on this show? Every time we have somebody on, we always kind of ask them if they have thoughts or an answer about that. Well, the good news is somebody is thinking about your housing problem. You're not making enough at work, no matter how hard you work. Somebody's worried about that. They're working on your housing problem. The bad news is it's Jeff Bezos, okay? The bad news is the guy that is your boss and you have to, like, pee in a bottle or whatever because you can't stop working because he treats you like a robot. He's like a famous workforce abuser, of course, and billionaire. he's thinking about your housing problem. Isn't that terrible news? Here's how terrible it is, actually. Him and another guy named Mark Laurie, who's a former Walmart executive, are starting to build what are called factory towns. This is not a joke. This is the real part of the story, okay? This leads into the joke. See, the news story is Amazon has like warehouse workers or whatever, and they pay them pennies or whatever, and those people can't afford to pay rent. So they're going to move those warehouses outside of major cities and build small towns around them where the company owns most of the shit in the town. So like you go work for your boss at the warehouse, then you go to the grocery store and pay your boss to have some milk and apples or what the fuck ever. That's the plan. That's the bad news.
All right.
But maybe it'd be nice, you know? I was in a Walmart the other day, and I was thinking, I wish my whole town was like this. I wish my whole town was run with the aesthetics and quality assurance of a Walmart. You know, like, that's the plan currently. And of course, they're billionaires. These are the guys like taking joyrides in outer space. So, like, guess how they can afford that? By fucking you so bad. So, like, when reached for comment about this troubling development, Jeff Bezos was quoted as saying, "Imagine how fast the shipping will be when you live in the warehouse."
Oh.
They're going to build these little towns. There's one called Toulouse, I think, and they're going to put it somewhere in the Midwest, and they're going to they're already starting it. They're literally searching for a place to put that town in now. So, don't worry if you can't afford rent. Soon your boss will own your house, and you can pay him right back the money that he barely gave you in the first place. Fuck you, America. Oh, well, thanks for watching this show. Today, we have a Longmont City Council person coming. What's that? Wait a second. Looks like we have a little note from the producers. Sometimes we get these little production level notes from our producers. I'll read this for you real quick. Sometimes it's a correction. Sometimes it's just a thought. Here's this. It says, all of this is happening inside you as much as it is happening outside you. Your quest for inner peace is also the world's quest for peace. I never get these. Why can't it just be like, can you stand more in the light or whatever? All right, so our guest today is a city council person, Susan Hidalgo-Fahring, and a delightful character. I'm going to have her on now. Susan, please join me. That's Jackson Cloud on that guitar. Please join us. Like that time, perfect.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
He also claps, isn't he the best?
Yeah.
Gotta do all these different parts here.
Multi-talented over there. Yeah.
Now, may I call you Susan?
Yeah,
Okay.
Susie's fine.
Susie is fine?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Susie. Because I never like to assume or whatever what people like to be called or whatever. I like to be respectful. Susie.
Thank you.
You were telling me you just came from school.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So my day job, I am a third grade bilingual teacher.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Elementary school, and by night I'm a city council person.
So like, in the day, you deal with small children
Yes.
all day.
Yeah.
And then at night, you deal with some adult children in our community.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a couple tough jobs, friend. Holy shit.
I'm sometimes thinking that working with the small children is a lot easier.
Boy, yeah, that makes
Sanity's
sense.
sake,
So, you are 2 years into a city council term, is that
I
right?
am, yes. This November will be completing my second year.
So, obviously, you had a pretty active 2 years on city council.
Yes, yeah.
More
yes.
than most city council
So-
people in this town have ever had.
Yeah, I would say.
How do you feel about it?
It's been wild. The first couple of months coming in, I was like, okay, I can manage this. I got that. I'd answer my calls, answer my emails on the weekend. I'd set my days, and then the pandemic hit, and it was like, oh my God. And then it got to the point, it was like, are we all even going to be around
Right.
anyways?
Right.
Like, does it matter?
I know, right?
Like March, we're thinking, are we going to be alive in April, May?
Yeah.
Who knows? And so now it's like, okay, this has become part of our our norm for a year and a half, and
Yeah.
we're just kind of having to deal with it. But it doesn't get any easier. And I'm thinking not just my role on city council, but as a teacher. My goal when I stepped into council was I was going to be passing aside my union duties as vice president and on our negotiating team.
Oh, okay.
To people stepping up, and we're like, okay, we need people to step up, and nobody stepped up. So I'm still doing that as well.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Susie, friend, you're a busy lady.
Yes, I am.
Holy shit. I mean, like, as much as I think it would, like, but the consensus seems to be the job of working at city council fucking sucks. But it's like, you know, it's a great public service, but the actual doing of it is fucking tough.
Yeah.
But you have like 2 jobs that are that way.
Yes.
I can
It's
imagine.
insane. No, and so in the early part of the pandemic, trying to think when it started, the weather started getting nice, Union Reservoir was closed, and Lake McIntosh, everybody came in droves. You know, we got people from Boulder, you know, people who didn't even live here. We're going to hang out at the beach. It was kind of like that, but hanging out at the lake, and you know, I was getting all these calls, and you know, people parking in front of driveways, people just, you know, being in the middle of the street and just unloading their stuff and no consideration. And so I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And you know, our city staff is so overwhelmed with everything going on. So I go and drive out there, and I'm like, no, you can't park there. Where's your mask? Where's that? I'm on city council.
I'm on city council.
Get it together. I'm like, I think there's a more efficient way of doing it. So and I'm getting the hang of it, of who to contact, how to streamline the process.
Boy. Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
That was very exhausting. I'm like, no.
So I've been going around and I've been interviewing a lot of the people running for these open seats. Your seat's not open. You're going to be around.
Yes.
Now, I'm not trying to ask you to endorse anybody, but like, what kind of people are we looking for on city council? Like, as the person who's already on the team, what kind of people do we need?
So I think people who reflect the community. We have an overwhelming, and I don't want to kind of dismiss people who have been working and are now retired, because I have great admiration, respect for, you know, their contributions to the community, to their profession, and what they bring, you know, their expertise and their experience. But I really believe that city council needs to be made up of people who match the demographics of the community. And I'm not just thinking about people of color. I'm thinking about age. I'm thinking about workforce. You know, people who work. It's different owning your business than being an employee.
Yes,
I don't have the flexibility to, okay, you know, I got to go to this meeting. So no, I'm having to do subplans. And I don't know. I have you on my Facebook, right?
Yes.
Did you see that meme that I posted of a painting where the sword is through her neck? It was like a Renaissance painting.
No, I didn't. But I do love
Okay, and
Renaissance
it was from a friend of mine who also is a teacher. I reshared it, and it was like, when you go to school with the sword in your neck, but it's too difficult to write subplans, so you just go to work anyways. Like I took a half day off for an event, and it took me all day to write the subplans because I'm having to put in, okay, if this particular thing happens, or if this child gets sick, or COVID protocol, all these different things that I have to make sure that are included. And it's too much work.
As if like a substitute teacher hasn't got it hard enough. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, man, that was like a target in our school. You know, like, ooh, the English teacher's gone, and like, here's this guy that we don't know. We'll never have to deal with him again. Let's ruin his life. You know?
No, and there have been times when several years ago, I FaceTimed my class because I guess they were kind of, you know, they were acting out. So the teacher texted me, and I was like, put me on FaceTime.
Oh, hey. Holy shit.
I'm watching you.
It's me, I'm still here.
I am here.
There will be hell to pay.
And they listen, and they get back to work. don't do that. That doesn't happen in city council.
Yeah. Yeah, well, bless you for doing your work, and thank you for being on city council.
Yeah.
Because, like, whether, on this show, we always try and make it a point, like, no matter what the person does in the office, like, it's still a public service, and I don't want to goddamn do it, and I'll bet you don't want to do it. So, like, we're pleased that people want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, I think having that perspective of knowing what it's like to be a worker in 2021. It looked very different than in 1980,
right.
1990, even 2000 when I first started in the district.
Yeah.
It's very different now than it was then.
Yeah, that sounds essential because, like, one thing I think everybody seems to agree on is we're not going back to how it was, basically.
No, we're not.
Our lives have changed.
Yes. And, and we have to grow and change with the times. So one of the things that I hear often are, the growth.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think this is something that's unique to Longmont. It's happening everywhere. People grow up, they have families, those families, their kids grow up, they have their families. It's just our population is vastly increased. And we have to make accommodations for a growing population. We're not going to continue to have Longmont the way it looked in 1980, 1970, way back
and
when.
You wouldn't want it to.
No,
that's
because
not what
I
a healthy
think when
city
things
does.
don't grow and change, they die.
But if their growth outpaces the population's ability to keep up.
There has to be a balance. And for me, the wages
right.
are not keeping up with the price of housing.
That's right.
And it's very frustrating. I rent my home.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the mid-90s, we owned a home. And then I had my kids, and we just decided that we did not want to stay where we were. We needed to find a community that we could raise our kids in.
Yeah.
And so we moved out here, and rather than hurrying up and buying a house, we were like, well, let's wait. Come on, it's not going to get that bad.
I know what you mean. I moved out here in 2009.
Okay, yeah.
And rent was like $850 for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
That was for me and my wife at the time. I was married at the time. That was like still a lot, coming from Texas. We're like, okay, we can afford it in Colorado, but just barely,
barely.
And now it's like twice that and more.
It's insane.
For the same place.
Yes, for the same place.
And I'm telling you, we didn't live in a fancy fucking place. We lived in one of those like half underground apartments where if it snows a foot, you are under the snow.
You're literally digging yourself out the door.
Yeah, that place is like $1,700 a month right now.
Yeah.
Who has that? Who has that and rents? You know what I mean? It's like we feel so trapped.
Yes.
It's the same people that are paying that rent all the time, for some reason, can't qualify for home loans, even though they're paying more than they would be on a home loan.
Yes.
It's very strange.
Because you cannot save enough. So for me, when we first moved out here, so I was the only one working. My husband, he had some medical back, and so he was on extended leave, and so it was my salary as an earlier career teacher with 3 kids, so a family of 5. I qualified for LEAP. I had my kids on that CHP for health care. We qualified for free lunch.
Yeah.
So I'm over there with my tray in the cafeteria. Can you feed the teacher?
You know what I mean? That's a disgrace in America, I think. Like teachers and all of the people that like the conservatives were calling like heroes last year, those are the people they fuck the worst. Okay? People, your friends at the grocery store that like are turns out completely essential to a modern society. Mm-hmm. They get paid nothing, get treated like that job is for children. That's not right.
No.
No.
And so that's been challenging. And then I have a daughter who, with mental health, we had some issues and some concerns, and so we decided to get quality mental health care for her. Unfortunately, our insurance doesn't cover that, so we had to pay out of pocket. So that's tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And my son, who's diagnosed with autism, to get him quality therapies and treatment, that isn't covered by insurance, so we had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for that throughout the course of his lifetime.
Amazing.
So I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to be at that house for a while.
You know what I'm saying?
I give up. I'm
Unless rent doubles again in the next 5
I know,
years.
and then we
We're all moving away.
Like, I don't have to bring my adult kids to come in and move in with us to help pay rent.
So like, I'm not sure that there's much that the city council can really affect about that situation. They can't
No.
really control rent prices.
No,
They can't really control what your boss pays you.
no.
So like, on a city level, is there anything we can do to get out from under that particular problem?
It's going to take a lot of time in building, just looking at that, I hear the term being used is that mid-tier housing, workforce housing.
Attainable housing.
Attainable housing. So whatever word you decide to label it, it's housing that people can afford to buy.
Yeah.
And that isn't deed restricted, because when it's deed restricted, you can only sell it for so much.
Right.
So
So like, people are
that's-
buying these affordable houses and flipping them and selling for
that's-
$1 million,
yeah.
billion dollars.
Yeah. No, there has to be some kind of cap. And so for with affordable housing, you can't do that. You have to have fall within a certain bracket to be able to purchase those homes.
Right.
And, so we need something that will address, people who don't, like from where we're at now, I make too much to qualify for any assistance, but I really don't make enough to be able to buy a house, so that's why we're still renting.
Yes, I saw that same pattern a lot during the pandemic when so many of us were on unemployment because they turned off all our jobs.
Yeah.
So like, it wasn't wrong to be on unemployment, That was like the thing we all had to do. But like, the way that the system is set up is like, they will pay you unemployment wages, but it is like destitution wages.
Yeah.
And if you go out in the world and you help yourself and you make $1 more than destitute, you lose everything.
Everything.
You just get kicked out of the system.
Yes.
That doesn't seem like it's actually built to help the person in
No.
question.
No.
It seems like it's built to like keep them at a destitute level and like not actually help them move forward in life. And I find that like our big bosses or whatever don't actually want us to do well. They need us in that desperate place so we
Yes.
don't ever have a chance to look up and notice how much we're being taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you there. My husband's a plumber.
And what's his first name?
Adam?
Adam.
Yep.
Adam, you got a hell of a lady here.
Oh,
I'm sure you're a great guy.
Yeah.
One of the kids too. But-
No, thank you. But anyway, I totally lost my train of thought.
That's what we do on this show.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Um,
Squirrel.
I think I've been kind of following this because, of course, during the pandemic, a lot of people couldn't pay their rent, and so there was that moratorium thing. And as that kind of lifts, we're going to see a real problem with people not being able to stay in their houses,
Yes.
people not being able to pay back rent, whatnot. And it seems like everybody is trying to be reasonable except the banks and the credit card people.
Yeah.
It seems like if
The interest that they're charging, all these
Yes.
things that could have been waived, that are not going to, and it's a large institution. It's not like a mom and pop shop struggling to pay their employees. These are billion-dollar corporations.
they're doing fine,
They're doing fine.
and in fact have tanked our economy a few times.
Yes.
So,
and
like,
have
they
been
owe us
bailed out.
money.
And have been bailed out.
Yeah, and they
Right.
sort of owe us.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
And so, like, I wonder why, and this is not even a question, I guess, that we can answer, but, like, doesn't it seem like the banks should have taken those home loans and taken, like, the months of the pandemic and just moved it to the end of people's loans and just charged them the interest?
Yeah.
Yeah. They live off the interest anyway, the banks do.
Yes.
So, like,
Yes.
that would mean, like, their bottom line doesn't really even change,
Yeah. Yes. No, there were so many things that they could have done.
Just not even
Differently.
part of the conversation.
And some of the things that we did, with the moratorium and the eviction moratorium, where people were allowed to fall behind, well, now they're getting to a point that they have to pay this all back.
Right.
And then some.
Yes.
And it seemed very short-sighted.
Yep.
We had to really think of something that's long-term on kind of getting out of this.
Yeah, so like pretending like that renter is going to have 6 months worth of rent all of a sudden is ridiculous.
The reason why they weren't paying rent was because they didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden 6 months later, pandemic's over, it's not like they have 6 months of rent stacked up.
How could they? That nobody thinks that makes sense at all.
No.
You know where their money is? Bezos has it.
Yeah.
Guys like that. You know, he's using it for jet fuel or whatever. You know, Elon Musk is printing robots that are going to come strangle your grandma or whatever. Have you heard about that?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's just a nightmare.
Oh,
I feel like these billionaires are sort of like economic pirates.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Arr.
No, I
Arr.
Arr.
Yeah.
No, I hear you with that. And then when you were talking about the housing that they
Yes.
were trying to, you know, that did happen in history
Yes.
in the 1800s. With the
Mining
steel.
towns.
Yes, yes. Where
Look it
the-
up if you haven't, because
Yes.
that could be our future if we're really not paying attention.
And that was not a good.
Wasn't a good future.
It wasn't a good
Yeah.
future.
Turns out you don't want your boss to own your house and the grocery store. You know
Yes.
what I mean? But like that, it scares me because we get guys like Bezos who he totally gets things done and he
Yeah.
totally can buy influence.
Yes.
So like if he decides to put us in factory homes, you know, in factory towns, pretty sure he can make it happen.
Mhm.
I don't think any of our politicians are going to fight him real hard about that. I read a thing, and I think it was the Wall Street Journal, and the headline was like, "Factory towns could save the working class." You know, what are we talking about?
What are we doing? Yes. How did we get here?
How did we get here?
Yeah.
You know, and like it's so refreshing to chat with somebody who's willing to talk about it. I appreciate the work that you do, and I appreciate your candor here. I'm not sure that there's anything that Longmont as a city can really do to affect that problem except
No.
like cross our fingers.
No, well, you know, we can lobby.
Yeah.
So I sit on the Latino Advisory Council for Congressman Neguse.
Okay.
So it's a group of us who, in the community, and we have conversations with the congressman, with his staff, and really offer what perspective that we are dealing with here.
Yeah.
The purpose of that particular group is to address issues that are primarily Latino, you know, our immigrant population, housing, linguistical barriers, different things that kind of fall in that. But there's so much that intersect, that cross over, that, you know, with mental health, with housing, that wages, so all these things that kind of impact everybody, regardless of race.
Right.
And, you know, and so it's just, again, it's lobbying. This is what we need. This is where we're at. You know, what can be done at the federal level? Because a lot of these things, these changes are not going to happen at the local level. It needs to happen at the federal level.
That's right.
But
Lobbying's important.
yes, and we as local leaders can really, you know, push and demand that Congress start, you know, making laws that better impact the working class people, not folks like Jeff Bezos.
Right.
And stand up to folks like that, so then people like us who are really, that we were deemed essential.
Yeah.
Police, healthcare workers, grocery store people, teachers.
That essential worker thing was so. That is like abusive boyfriend talk.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, baby, you're so essential to my life. I would never treat you that way, or whatever." Like that's the kind of language they're using toward these folks.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like a lot of the like Latino community, of course, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in that community in Longmont, right?
Yes.
And there's like, oh man, there's this one taco spot near my house. Not a sponsor, but they're called Dia y Noche Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been in there?
No, I have not.
Holy shit. These people are so amazing. They make the best pastor in town, by far the best asada in town.
Yeah.
But like, you know, for the last few months, every time I drive by, they're not open, right? Because they probably got beat up through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think businesses like that kind of like, I don't know, whenever I go in there, it's a lot of the same people that I see coming through. It's got like a small community of people that like eat there and support it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I feel like a business like that is sort of like a more vulnerable business than some of these other businesses in our community.
Yes.
Is there any kind of like a balancing mechanism for that, or are there extra resources for that?
So we do have the Latino Chamber in Boulder
of course.
County, and we have a sustainability. I can't remember. I know it's that work with our businesses to.
Okay.
And it's not environment. It's really looking at business sustainability, and So they'll have workshops, they have opportunities
Oh, okay.
for business owners who are starting out to get the resources and assistance they need to be able to get their programs off the ground. I know when the first round of the money, was it PPP? I'm trying to get
Oh
all
yeah, the PPP.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there were no BIPOC businesses that were selected.
Really?
And then it was like, okay, hello.
Holy shit.
What's missing? Who are we targeting? You know, so some people who already know the culture, who know how to access resources in the culture, they know how to make it.
Right.
Because they're used to this, working through the system that we have.
And that was
so then
a
you
mess.
have people who are outside of the system who don't know how to navigate how we operate businesses, how we access resources.
Yeah.
So they need that little extra support.
Absolutely.
And
I
that's
needed
what-
an interpreter. When I got the PPP loan stuff,
Yes.
I run an art business, and you can imagine how well we did in our art business.
Yeah.
My job became illegal.
Uh-huh.
So, like, what can you do?
Yeah.
But, like, man, I was trying to fill out that paperwork, and, like, just finding, because it was a forgivable loan, right? That was
Yes.
the whole thing. It was like, we'll help you out, and then maybe we'll forgive you.
Yes.
And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I definitely need help. Please forgive me.
Uh-huh.
But, like, you know, sending the checks didn't seem like it was that bad of a process. There's a lot of paperwork or whatever, but
Yes.
finally I got my check. And then I was just sitting on my hands being like, am I going to be able to spend this? Am I have to give it back to you? Like, it took months for them to even contact me and be like, here is how you apply for the thing, you know?
Okay.
It was such a mess. I can't imagine, like, trying to do that in any other language, because I don't
Yes.
think the paperwork was really diversified. You know what I mean?
No, and that's
It was incredibly intimidating, even for me. I totally speak English mostly, you know?
and I think that's where local government can really help step up and have those resources in place for, and I think one thing I've been really impressed with, we have a lot of folks in our group who are doing the cultural brokers, the economic sustainability program, and they do a really good job connecting people with the right kinds of resources who ask for it too.
Yeah.
So it's really important that folks know that these groups are out there.
Yeah, so they can
They
know
can
to
help
ask.
you connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important information. But that can, I guess, be discovered on the city website.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Go on there and peruse through.
Yeah, that website.
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot going on.
They have a lot going on. In there. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think maybe was your toughest challenge so far being on council?
I think navigating through the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's been.
Yeah.
It's been insane. And then when we started, passing them, and we didn't pass the mask mandates. We said we were going to follow what the state and the county has said. So
Right.
it was the public health that said, okay, you need to do this, so we do that. And then, it was like, we get all this disparaging email, and, I think the mayor had made a statement, and I think it was the hospital one, where Weld County, if you're not, so the mail, the emails, it got to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna have to like set a day. I'm just gonna sit here, just take it all in. I'm gonna have like my popcorn,
Yeah.
or potato chip, or some kind of like
Some Lay's potato chips, not a sponsor, and some coffee.
Yes, yeah, just kind of, or a glass of wine. I don't know.
Yeah, a little glass of Malbec. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And reading through the emails after that had happened, and one guy had sent an email. I mean, we got an email from George Lopez.
Huh.
Yeah, and I was like, not his real name.
Yeah.
Because
Wow, George.
yeah,
Really?
he was hating on us. For that.
Really tuned in to local politics, aren't you?
I know.
Ever since he lost his show, he's been
Yeah,
so
he's
dialed
been
in.
so dialed in, and with what's happening in Longmont, Colorado.
Wow.
But this other guy had commented about, if you were left on the side of the road, I would just leave you there to die. It was just like really ugly with vitriol, and
Not exactly a good Samaritan.
no, it was just odd. It was just
Yeah.
odd.
People.
I think we were all doing what we thought was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, I guess when you're privileged, anybody else's opinion feels like tyranny. You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I think we saw a lot of that.
And, and for me, I really am adhering to and adhere to all the mask mandates. They say stay inside, Because as a teacher, last year I had 3 kids who tested positive.
Yep.
One was in ICU. I've lost good friends, other teacher colleagues from other associations in the country.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of depending on where they were, where the numbers, a lot more people got sick. And I just like, that's not a chance I want to take.
I feel
Our
you.
kids are not eligible, under 12, they're not eligible for vaccines. I teach 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay, grow up. I'm
Yep.
not going to be,
I feel you.
because it doesn't feel good, or, you know, my glasses steam up.
Yeah. The least of our worries.
It is.
It's amazing though, because like I feel like our whole culture on both political spectrum across everyone, we are all as a group traumatized by what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And classically, Americans aren't great at dealing with our mental health.
Yeah.
And so like we're acting out in a lot of strange ways based on that trauma.
Yes. Yeah.
I wish that there was some way other than just like, you know, sitting down with people like running our city and be like, look, normal, nice person, would you chill the fuck out? Like, you know,
I'm not trying to take control of everybody.
I'll bet you she doesn't have a little Hitler mustache under her mask.
No,
What do you want to fucking bet?
See, I'm good.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's just amazing because, like, I feel like, especially in Longmont, we have a lot of people with great intentions. We don't really have any bad guys on city council.
No.
And believe me, if we did, I'd mention it. You know what I mean? That's my personality type. I beat up bullies.
Yeah.
But, like, we don't have anybody like that.
No,
And so, like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. We got
I've
people
had
that disagree.
We have people that
That's their
disagree.
job.
That's it. That's it. Bring in different perspectives.
That's it.
Everybody has their idea of what they think is the best way to approach a certain issue. Because we disagree, that doesn't mean we're the enemy.
That's right. We're all
And
Team America right now.
Yes, and you know, how we go about solving certain issues, we might have different opinions on how it's best,
That's right.
but that doesn't mean that because I disagree with you, you are my enemy.
That's so essential.
And so that's, and I know that there's been rhetoric, you know, I'll like occasionally like dabble in Facebook, I'll go on there and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, and look,
I'm out.
I'm an outspoken man myself, and I say extreme shit all the time.
Yeah,
But I try and come from a place of love,
yeah.
and of course I use the F word a lot. That's just part of how I am.
Yeah.
You know, boy, I appreciate you coming on this little show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your candor and your sweetness.
Sure.
I really appreciate you
Oh,
very
thank
much.
you. I appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah, so you don't hate me and you don't want to like.
No, and actually, like, haven't run into these people that I actually hate
I
on the
do.
squash.
Yeah.
And that part lets me down, honestly. Because I wish there was like a clear bad guy that could be like, oh, let's get him, you know.
Yeah.
But we haven't found
No,
him.
I haven't seen that on council. So I think we will survive. And you know, through this election cycle, we will survive.
We will survive. We'll
Yes.
stick together.
We will stick together.
Thank you,
That's
Susie.
okay.
And thank you for watching. Grandma, if you're still awake, you're in big trouble. I'm going to come check on you in just a minute. Thank you very much for watching. That's Boulder County Tonight.